I'm Jane Rudolph.
And I'm Monsignor Charles Minor.
I'm Father Joe Glass. Welcome to Reel to Reel. Well, now, are you two just hanging around the Philadelphia area this week?
Have been, Father Joe.
Well, I was down in Florida, Tampa, Florida. I was at an UNDA convention. Now, do you know what UNDA is?
Yes, I'm glad to hear you were at UNDA, and you met some old friends of mine. UNDA is the International Association for Religious Broadcasters.
And in fact, if you're wondering what UNDA means, it is Latin for wave, being the sound and the video waves that go out bringing the good news.
What an intelligent group.
Well, speaking about bringing good news to you, tonight we're going to continue our spiritual journey with Father Tom Legere. Tonight he's going to take a little bit of a mystical look at some of the saints. We also do have another piece on the Elwyn Volunteer of the Year, who's not really a jack of all trades, he's a Tom of all trades.
The history of the Camden Diocese continues. This time we see how much they've done for the physical welfare of their people.
And I'm going to have an interview with Linda Riva, who is the coordinator for Project Rachel in the Camden Diocese, and I think you're going to find that interview fascinating.
Well, when we were little children, most of us were fascinated by fairy tales. We were lulled to sleep by those fairy tales when our parents told us the stories. But I don't think we realized that there was really a moral victory of good over evil in all of our old-fashioned stories.
Nor do we realize how professional our parents were by nature to do these things. But professionalism really has many ways of entering into our religious life. Ed Stivender has a special way of showing us how to use his talents not only as a catechist and religion teacher, but as a professional storyteller, using stories from the Bible to tell us about God.
Once upon a time, there was an entertainer who wasn't afraid to be educational.
Have a Coca-Cola. So they went and had a caffeine-free Coca-Cola, and they finally did get married, and they lived happily ever after.
Evolving from a full Catholic education with a master's degree in theology, Ed Stivender performs throughout the country, touching lives through his unique gift of storytelling.
I was teaching high school in West Hartford, Connecticut, teaching Bible class, and I was imitating Jacob's ride across the desert on a camel. And I began to actually imitate riding a camel, and the kids broke into laughter, and I realized that laughter was a kind of tool to allow the biblical stories to get through to them. And once that bug had bit, storytelling from the Bible with acting things out and humor, I knew that there was something special going on and that I wanted to do this for a long time.
Recently, Ed presented a sample of his one-man act at a teacher's in-service day at Cardinal O'Hara High School.
Hello, my name is St. Francis of Assisi, but don't get me wrong, just because I'm wearing a dress don't mean I'm a sissy. Every once in a while, God says to one of his saints, hey, why don't you go down on earth and tell the folks what the kingdom of heaven is like? So last night he said to me, hey, Frankie. He calls me Frankie.
Religious comedy is a tricky business, and some people don't quite know how to take it. The most pleasurable is an audience that all is from the same tradition, a group that believes the same thing, feels secure in their religion, and is ready to allow the distance that laughter can bring to understand the religion better.
Let there be light, and behold, there was light. Let there be dark, and behold, there was dark. Let there be light, dark, light, dark, light, dark, light, dark, light, dark, light, dark. And God said, this is good. And then he said,
daydreaming is an important tool for developing storytelling ideas.
Dreaming, 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 that is what I'll always do.
In the old days, you used to get in trouble for daydreaming. For a storyteller, daydreaming is research work, and in daydreaming I figure out solutions to theatrical questions that I have about my work. I figure out new ways to say certain things, figure out storytelling moments, how a storytelling moment can best work, and that uses the imagination.
Yo, as a matter of fact, I got 3 magic wishes for you today only. What's your first wish?
Cinderella says, well, my first wish is that the house could be completely cleaned up.
No problem. Magic wand, once, twice, 3 times around her head, and the house is immaculate, completely cleaned up.
Ed's versatile performance incorporates the use of music.
Hey, far out, why don't you play dueling banjos? So I'd like to start with dueling banjos this morning. Da 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 da.
Clowning. Props.
Yes, I do. Oh, Eve, you weren't born yesterday, were you?
And audience participation.
I said, once upon a time, a long time ago, there was a baby born in Bethlehem. He was born in a stable on a donkey's dinner table, and the magic men came to visit him.
The use of props allows the focus to go from a tense focus on the audience to an untense or relaxed focus. So it ends up being kind of a puppet show where I change voices, and this keeps the audience awake and responsive.
Whew, creation sure is wonderful. Hello, Eve, how do you feel? Adam, I've got a stomachache. How'd you get a stomachache, Eve? It must have been something I ate. You didn't? Yes, I did, and you should too. Come with me. And so Adam.
I thought it was very entertaining.
Inspired. Good and spirited.
Although Ed intertwines thought-provoking ideas within the framework of his stories, he tries not to have an obvious moral.
I'd like to think that all of my jokes have something behind them, some hidden agenda behind them, if only to warm up the audience. And I would like to think that my comedy many times leads to a thinking point, something to think about.
Well, the story of Adam and Eve is the story of the human race. And that story isn't ended yet, and we all get a chance to decide how that story ends.
I think he tried to get at the core of who we are as Christians, who we are as God's people. I feel the storytelling is the vehicle. We're so captivated by media that we need an attention getter just to get us to stop, look, think, examine.
I think he's definitely trying to place religious doctrine, Catholic doctrine, in a palatable form for young people and adults.
I think he was showing that education can be fun, and it doesn't have to be something which was back in the Dark Ages, that you can enjoy your religion and have fun with your religion.
Storytelling from the Bible is a vocation for Ed, as well as the vehicle he uses to strengthen his own religious beliefs.
While one is telling the story, it's very easy to have faith, and there's no distinction between the thinker and the thought, in a sense. There's no distinction between the speaker and the speech. As a storyteller, the activity of storytelling has really strengthened my faith, and I feel most faithful when I'm doing the work. I do believe that Christianity is caught, not taught. Catholicism is not teaching the doctrine as much as it is catching the wave of it. And I think that it's possible to pass the wave, if you will, from the stage so that individuals listening to the story can catch Catholicism, can catch Christianity.
Believe it or not, Ed describes himself as an introvert, and it's only when he sees an audience that that personality just explodes.
Well, we want to see you as an audience, so you stay right with us. We're coming right back. Hello, I'm Monsignor Charles Minor. Since 1981, Reel to Reel has proclaimed the good news by bringing you stories of Christian faith in action. We do it by roaming the Delaware Valley, searching for people of faith, of hope, and of charity. But like all modern media, it is an expensive proposition. If you're a new viewer, or if you've enjoyed Reel to Reel for many years, we would like to thank you for watching and invite you to participate by actively supporting the show. Today, with costs rising all around us, we need your financial support. A donation of $5, $10, $20, or whatever you can send would help ensure the continued presence of this program. Send your contributions to Reel, 222 North 17th Street, room 907, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, 19103. And thank you.
Hello, I'm Gary Maddox. Learning to read can change your life. To get help, call the Mayor's Commission on Literacy at 686-8652.
No fancy introduction. I just can't wait for you to meet Linda Riva. She's the coordinator of Project Rachel for the Camden Diocese. Linda, welcome to Reel to Reel.
Thank you, Father.
I should tell the viewers we've had a few minutes to chat before the program began, and I'm so fascinated by your story and by Project Rachel. You want to start us off by telling us how it got its name?
Rachel comes from Jeremiah 31, where she's found weeping for her children, and the Lord comes to her and says, "Weep no more, for I have heard your cries of mourning, and their is hope for your future.
All right, and now I think we can begin to tell our viewers Project Rachel is a program designed to help women cope with post-abortion syndrome, women who've been through the trauma of abortion, and then later in their lives there's tensions, there's trauma because of it. You are helping people cope with that. Huh?
And that's what it is, a program of hope for women who are trying to cope with the pain of an abortion experience in their lives.
Linda, can you tell us, how did you get involved with such a program?
I lost 2 children through abortion practically 12 and 14 years ago.
And at the time, was there a Project Rachel?
There was no Project Rachel at that time, no. And the reality of what I had done hit me 10 years after my first abortion experience. And when that hit me, a lot of emotions came up in me, a lot of grief and shame and an inability to forgive myself for what I had done. And at that time, there was no Project Rachel. There was no one to talk to. And I felt so bad about that in my life that it wasn't something that I could go to even a priest or a minister about. It was something I kept between myself and God. And that's what I did. I took it to God in prayer. And through the next few years, He led me through a healing process, which restored me and has brought me to the position of wanting to reach out to help other women who are struggling, not just women, but men too.
Yes, it involves the whole family,
yes.
Sure. But I imagine it must have been a paralyzing time, the guilt, the tension that was caused, obvious a desire to take it somewhere, and yet an inability to take it, no place to take it, and it must have been
the worst thing was not being able to forgive myself. And a marvelous thing happened. I'll just share that with you and with the viewers. I had the opportunity to take in a woman at that time who was pregnant. I didn't realize what God was doing in my life at that time, but she had no place to go. And I thought she was going to stay for 2 weeks, and she stayed for 2 years.
Okay.
And when it came time for her baby to be born, I went to the hospital with her and stayed in the labor room, and the doctor invited me to gown up and go into the delivery room with her. She'd asked me to be the godmother of the baby, and I went into the delivery room, and they didn't even wash her off when my goddaughter was born. They placed her in my arms.
Oh, isn't that fun? That must have been a therapeutic experience
at that time,
for you.
Right, then I could feel and rejoice in the forgiveness of God.
And then you began to speak out. You began to go to groups. You began to speak in parish settings, and you're still available for that sort of thing. But then you heard about Project Rachel. Is that correct? It was actually started in, where did you tell me? Boston, Minnesota?
Milwaukee.
Milwaukee. I was close. I was bouncing around the country. In Milwaukee. But you now have brought this program to the Camden diocese and are willing, of course, to bring it anywhere else.
Okay. I did not bring the program here to the Camden diocese. It's a part of our Respect Life office, directed by Father Dominic Patino.
Tell us very briefly a little bit about it. What are some of the components that go into Project Rachel?
It consists of 3 parts. The first part is peer support, which is found through myself and other women that are working with me. Number 2, counseling, professional counseling. If the women have problems, other problems besides in the healing process, we can refer them to a counselor. And 3, it's reconciliation in the faith tradition that they are in, how they relate to God, whether it be through a priest or a minister.
So it is a very total, a very holistic approach to dealing with post-abortion syndrome.
Yes.
Linda, we are out of time, and we're certainly not out of ideas or thoughts or compassion on this subject. And I thank you for being with us and for sharing your story. For more information, the address will be given later on. To write to us here at Reel to Reel on Project Rachel for getting involved with it or bringing it to your parish or diocese. Monsignor and Jane, I hope I didn't keep you waiting. Back to you.
It's a delight to have to wait with Linda. You know, the idea of Almighty God's teaching us, professional teaching, professional learning, professional counseling. The church always has to get into some area of expertise.
And thankfully, we're going once again to the Diocese of Camden, as we know, doing wonderful works throughout the region. We're going to look at the healthcare facilities, which not only treat the body through the trained healthcare professionals, but also treat the spirit through the Diocese of Camden.
Today Today marks the 10th week in which we commemorate the Golden Jubilee of the Diocese of Camden, New Jersey. We highlight today the role the diocese has played in providing care for the sick and the elderly among the people of South Jersey. 50 years ago, when the 6 southern counties of the state were separated from the Diocese of Trenton and made an independent ecclesiastical jurisdiction, there was not one healthcare facility operated by the Catholic Church. Today, facilities are provided throughout the entire area. One of the Delaware Valley's foremost hospital facilities is Our Lady of Lourdes Medical Center in Camden. Opened in 1950 by Camden's first bishop, the Most Reverend Bartholomew J. Eustace, the medical center from the beginning has been staffed by the Allegheny, New York Franciscan Sisters. Just recently, they completed a large, ultra-modern addition to the hospital, making it a state-of-the-art facility in healthcare, not only for Catholics, but for all the people of South Jersey. As it has grown over these past 37 years, Our Lady of Lourdes has added an intensive care unit, coronary care facility, and a mental health center. Today, the center continues to serve the sick and the needy of southern New Jersey. Since the Diocese of Camden is under the patronage of the Blessed Mother, several medical and nursing facilities have been named in her honor. In 1940, 3 years after the creation of the diocese, the Little Sister Servants of the Immaculate Conception began St. Mary's Catholic Home in what is now Cherry Hill, which today is one of the most up-to-date nursing homes in the entire state. Other facilities named in Our Lady's honor include, in Pleasantville, near Atlantic City, Our Lady's Residence, and in Elmer and Salem County, the Mater Dei Nursing Home. Mater Dei is Latin for Mother of God. In Vineland, the Bishop McCarthy Residence is named in honor of the second Bishop of Camden, Bishop Justin J. McCarthy. And just this summer, the present Ordinary of Camden, Bishop George Guilfoyle, established in Pleasantville a home for unwed mothers called Bethlehem House. This past half-century has seen the Diocese of Camden grow from a Catholic population of fewer than 100,000 to more than 350,000, today served by 127 parishes and more than 400 priests. And in these 50 years, not only has the Catholic Church of South Jersey tended to the spiritual needs of the faithful, but through facilities such as St. Mary's Catholic Home, it has been diligent in looking after the sick, the poor, and the elderly as well. We salute the Diocese of Camden as it celebrates its Golden Jubilee, and thank God for the wonderful care it has given to all the people of South Jersey.
It never ceases to fascinate us that this growth of 50 years in Camden Diocese has brought more and more of the population, but also more and more, as we said before, expertise to minister to them.
And you're going to expand your horizons tonight on Reel to Reel, so stay with us.
The girls will tear pages out of catalogs, and these things are very expensive when bought through catalogs, and I'll take them home and we'll copy a lot of it.
"20 years ago, leukemia and related diseases took the lives of enough people to fill a ballpark. But today, more people are surviving, thanks to research by the Leukemia Society of America.
Hi, I'm Gary Carter. Join the team that's striking out leukemia. The Leukemia Society of America. We're closing in on a killer.
We welcome your comments and suggestions and encourage you to write to us at Reel to Reel, 222 North 17th Street, room 907, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, 19103, or call us during regular business hours at 215-668-9842.
It is always so easy to fall into ordinary traps, thinking other things are difficult. But really, true love is one area that is never difficult.
And someone who never finds anything difficult is Tom DiFilippo, a member of St. Charles Borromeo Parish in Drexel Hill. His list of activities, even after he's retired, has gone on and on and on. And I think he's listened to the late, great entertainer Danny Kaye, who once said, "Life is a great big canvas, and you should throw as much paint on it as you can."
Tom DiFilippo is retired, yet you'd never know it by his hectic pace, which includes piano tuning, woodworking, and the beloved player piano he reconstructed. This pace doesn't tire Tom, a physicist of over 30 years, for after stealing a kiss from wife Connie, he's off to a second career as volunteer carpenter and all-around handyman at Elwyn Institute's Development Center in Media, Pennsylvania. Under the direction of Q Wang, pictured here, the center strives to develop each handicapped child to the highest potential. Over 80 children attend classes on a year-round basis, with a curriculum designed for the individual, and where personalities shine.
Slow kiss for me.
This tilt board is an example of Tom's carpentry in the physical therapy department.
I've been a volunteer at Elwyn for 4 years. And the way we operate basically is I go there and they tell me what they need, and I go home and we try it. And if it doesn't work the first time, we build it again.
In his basement workshop, Tom has crafted frames for hanging toys, special adaptive chairs, even a kitchen set for the more active children. How does he do it?
I'm a really good copier. I can copy anything I can see. The girls will tear pages out of catalogs, and these things are very expensive when bought through catalogs. And I'll take them home and we'll copy a lot of it and modify it to the particular problems of the children.
A prime example, a measuring board for a child who's unable to stand. Tom created this tool so therapists can accurately measure height.
Before I got to Elwyn, they were paying a lot of money for various items. And we've had $80 items, which I've made for $3.50, $4.
When speech pathologist Mary Cull learned of a therapeutic tool using switches to activate battery-operated toys, Tom built these switches and keeps them now in good working order.
She noticed that they were using all these elaborate switches to activate toys that normally run with a battery. And the idea is to stimulate the child to move a hand or to move his elbow or to move his head. They asked me if I could make these switches. Well, I had an electronic engineer work for me at one time, and I went to see him to see whether or not this was difficult. And it was not difficult, and since then we've been making a lot of these switches.
This is a big tool.
So the whole idea is to motivate a child to move some part of its body.
Good job. You touched that switch. Good job, Michael.
I've given a couple speeches at AARP luncheons, and my first attitude, it's deplorable that somebody retires and does nothing. There's so many good things you can do in this world. And there's just so many places you can volunteer and so many hobbies. I'm writing a book on the history of Upper Darby. I belong to the Optimist Club, and I run the youth programs for the Optimist Club. I don't know how I found time to go to work. So it's a lot of fun. You know, what I'm doing here is I'm helping somebody and at the same time helping myself too.
Well, Tom was named Volunteer of the Year for Elwyn Institutes in 1986, in fact, for all of his volunteer work. But he says it's the full-time professionals who are going straight to heaven that work with the handicapped children.
The full-time professional, too, is Father Tom Legere in The Spiritual Journey. Tells us that there are contradictions, but he also tells us how to deal with them.
Greetings in the Lord. One area of concern today, and an area I get asked about all the time, is the relationship between the psychic and the spiritual. Recently, one of our theologians plowed through a book called Butler's Lives of the Saints and examined the lives of some 2,532 of our canonized saints to find out how many of them had psychic ability. And surprisingly enough, some 29% of our Catholic saints were also psychic. For many of them, they had the ability to heal and work miracles. Others had gifts of extrasensory perception, like clairvoyance, the ability to see events from afar. For example, St. Albert the Great was aware that his prize pupil, Thomas Aquinas, had just passed away, and he told other people about that, even though Thomas Aquinas had died hundreds of miles away. Others had the gift of telepathy, being able to read other people's thoughts. This should not surprise us because, after all, Jesus himself was able to read the thoughts of the scribes and the Pharisees before they even opened their mouths. Apparently, going to confession to Padre Pio, who many people consider to be a modern-day saint, was quite an experience. You would go to him and he would tell you what your sins were before you even said anything. Other saints had the ability to work psychometrically with objects. They would be able to touch objects, tune into the vibrations of the people who own those objects, and tell people all about the individuals who own them. Others had the ability to bilocate, be in two places at the same time. Others had the gift of premonition, being able to tell about events before they took place. So there's no contradiction, clearly, between being psychic and being spiritual. But on the other hand, what about the other 71% of our saints who did not have psychic abilities? Were they second-rate? In no way. Jesus is very clear about this. He tells us that the mark of sanctity has to do with washing one another's feet. So some people are going to have these psychic abilities, but if they don't have love behind them, don't listen to them. Because when all is said and done, spirituality is not about bilocation or levitation, but it's about washing one another's feet.
We've covered a wide variety of products in tonight's program, and we really want to let you know if anything has struck you, make sure that you do write to us, or please do give us a call. And we are out of time. We've got to say goodbye, so until next week, please take care.
Goodbye, and God bless you.
Good night. See you next week.
Travel arrangements for Reel-to-Reel by Atkinson and Mullen Travel of Media, PA. Phone area 215-565-7070.